So welcome everyone to this very special Transatlantic Poetry broadcast. My name is Robert Peake, creator of the series. And have you ever wondered how we do this? How we're actually able to bring some of the most interesting poets from the global community into your living rooms, live through the internet, month after month, on a consistent basis? The answer really is it's all down to our hosts. So the hosts do a lot more, you may not know, than just introduce the poets on the night. They help us source the poets and get them prepared. They work with our partners to promote the events, not only their own events, but to cross-promote one another's events, and to essentially build this global community of poets and poetry lovers tuning in together once a month to enjoy some of the most interesting poetry being written in our time. So, the other thing you may not know about our hosts is that part of how they're able to do this and part of why they have such strong connections and ties to the poetry community is that they are each in their own right outstanding poets and really interesting writers. So this is an event that I've been looking forward to really for a while now. It's an opportunity to introduce you and kind of reintroduce you to our hosts, not in their typical role of introducing the poets and fielding the Q&A, but to introduce you to each of them through their work, through their poetry. And as I say, they're all poets that I admire and I'm excited to have in one room. It feels, frankly, like a bit of a really excellent global party right now in terms of the behind the scenes so far. So without further ado, we're going to have 6 poets. They're just going to read some of their work for you as a sampler, one after another. It's a box of chocolates for the next hour of poetry. 6 different poets in the lineup. I'll introduce each one very briefly beforehand. So to take it away and kick it off for us, first up is Christopher Crawford. His poetry, his essays, his translations have appeared in a wide range of journals and of anthologies. He's one of the founding editors of Body, that's capital B-O-D-Y. If you haven't heard of it, you're probably not that into poetry. An excellent journal. And he joins us now from Prague in the Czech Republic. Chris, over to you.
Hi, thank you, Robert. Good evening, everybody. Good evening to my fellow readers as well, scattered around the globe. Actually, Robert, tonight I'm in Czerchany, which is approximately 30 kilometers southwest of Prague. So I'm out here in my co-editor Josh's house. It's a very nice bookshelf behind me. I thought this could be a nice setting. So I'll read you a few poems tonight, pretty much about four short poems. So I'll get started with that just now. The first one is Men at Sea, which I wrote probably 12 years ago, maybe more, long time. Men at Sea. The somber toll of the sea and its endless distant rhythms. Such music yet to be made, and miles of it stretching ahead like a long black muscle unspooling itself. Men are driven mad anyway, out there among the other men, and turn inward, dying of thirst like the salt eaters, like those born sentient and suddenly, who understand at once how it is to feel yourself beyond the curve of the earth, to know the home of the dark waves, and to go there. Right, you'll have to bear with me a moment because I've got it in the screen in front of me, so I'm scrolling down. And it says here page 11, so 8, 9, 10, 11. Letter to self from deathbed. It's very cheerful, isn't it? So, letter to self from deathbed. A sea swells somewhere beyond your white room. A blood-orange sun burns low in the water and sears the circling gulls who cut the air. Yet the sun is on you too, past the skin. It is of you. It is you. The sharp, ridiculous pain of needles, far away, quiet. A deep, slow pain turns you in its hands, like mother with infant. Close by, the sea shifts again, the sun melts, and the gulls skim so low they seem as one with the indigo black of the water. Only mothers remain, The mother of night comes. It's night. People catch aeroplanes. A man buys a postcard somewhere. Right. Just go down. Next one I'm going to read you is, it's also old, very old. Maybe 2007. Yeah, somewhere. Okay, here we go. And this one is called Vierka, which is my partner's name, Vierka. It's a Czech woman's name. Vierka playing the guitar and singing in her living room. Notes rising over the room. Her lashes against her cheeks like the sticky petals of a sundew. Small mouth open. She gives what she has unabashed for 3 cruel, unstoppable, terrifying minutes. There is no turning away from this music. No pretending that the heart doesn't darken. Sickened at itself. In its being found out for what it became. Forced to hear what it has come to, that the heart cannot, will not, find every corner, fill each vase in the house, nor bleed through without effort the hollow necks of the fresh flowers there. And so instead the song, made a song, only by what moves inside the woman, infuses the room and illuminates the possibility of, the absolute impossibility of love. Last one from me, but I will do 2 more very short ones, very, very short poems, because I want to read one each by my fellow poetry editors at Body, poems that I particularly like. I'd like to do that, and they're pretty short, so I'm sure that I have time. Last one from me personally, it's also very short. Here it is. Ars Poetica. And here we have a little quote. When your work speaks for itself, don't interrupt, by industrialist Henry J. Kaiser. Here's the poem. Seeing a woman pissing off a bridge in downtown Ho Chi Minh, 3 motorcycle loads of young guys stopped, hooting and waving their arms around roadside. The woman absolutely unconcerned, hearing only the hiss of herself joining the river, and far off, unrelated cheering, which is the proper response to undertaking any kind of important work. Right, here we go. First I'm going to read one by my co-editor Josh Mensch, and it's called Years Later, The Singer. Not life, but revenge. The great singer sits in his car, night after night, toying with the radio. He's playing the static channels again. Somewhere in the snow is a pure note, resembling his voice. It's demented, of course. Static, sitting inside one's ear for hours, like an important thing to do. He lived inside that note once. He could have ended with it lodged, a morsel in his throat. He could have been a voice above his body, someone singing down. And from Stephen, funnily, this poem by Stephen Delbos, another of my co-editors here, I had it in my head. This is the last one I'll read to you. I had it in my head when I was climbing a mountain, and it kept going through my head. I really love this poem. It's called Tiny Miracles. Tonight I watched the tiny miracle of street lamps waking, false stars where sunlight failed, as I leaned on a phone booth by a boulevard thick with numb machines. Tungsten teaches us, darkness falls, but rise and burn. Yes, nevertheless, stumbling home on a decade-old dawn, I saw stoplights blink like beating hearts, but the bloodshot stare of a high school dropout all-night gas station cashier shone lonelier. In youth, I did not know the body is a hollow place we hold a spark. Oh, matchstick life, please keep me lit. That's it. Thank you for having me. And good luck to the other readers. I'll be listening.
Bring your own applause. I love that. That's great. Thank you, Chris. That was wonderful. So up next, we have Edward Doegar. Edward's poems and reviews have appeared in a wide range of journals and anthologies. He's a Complete Works Fellow. He's also the assistant editor of the Rialto and general manager of the Poetry Society. And he joins us now from London. Edward?
Thank you very much. Just to start off by saying I'm really pleased and proud to be a small part of this community that Robert's creating, and I really believe in it as a project. So yeah, thank you very much for having me. I thought I'd start off with a poem by Karen Soley, so that if at the end of the reading you're not very sure that I can write a good poem, you can at least be sure I can recognize a good one. It's called Nice, and it has an epigraph from Diane Arbus. I think I'm kind of two-faced. I'm very ingratiating. It really kind of annoys me. I'm just sort of a little too nice. Everything is ooh. Nice. Still dark, but just. The alarm kicks on. A voice like a nice hairdo squeaks, "People, get ready for a nice one." Low 20s, soft breeze, ridge of high pressure, settling nicely. Songbirds swallowing, ruffling, starting in. Does anyone curse the winter wren, calling in Christ's name for just one bloody minute of silence? Of course not. They sound nice. I pull away, and he asks why I can't be nicer to him. Well, I have to work, I say. And wouldn't it be nice if somebody made some money today? Very nice, he quavers, rolling his face to the wall. A nice face, a nice wall. We agreed on the green down to hue and shade straight away. That was a very nice day. It's kind of a crippling poem in all sorts of ways, but not least because you can't really follow it. But if you know Karen Soley's work, and if you don't, you should, you'll know that she writes quite a lot of travelogue poems. So I thought, this being a transatlantic reading, I might read some from a sequence about a year abroad spent in Charleston, South Carolina, and that was time in 2002 to 2003, so not long after 9/11. Certainly the atmosphere of that was in the air. I'll read 4 short poems from their sonnets. 1. The Civil War started here. Democracy leads to Strom Thurmond. Progress. Fort Sumter flies the stars and stripes. Everyone I meet is white. Bumper stickers celebrate hope. The South will rise again. Or sermons. No Jesus, no heaven. Or simply threaten the local delicacy. I heart grits. Girls raised in the South. Alligator is a novelty that tastes like chicken. The air, like everything else, is fried. It's not the heat, it's the conversation that kills you. I turn 20 and give up cigarettes for cigars. They import Cubans to roll Dominicans in the shacks downtown. 3. I write to receive. The mail arrives in installments, a groundsman maneuvering his buggy between flags. New glories. I learned to master an automatic. It takes a few weeks to get used to the suicide lane. Tempers run semi-tropical. They call it the right side of the road for a reason. Spanish moss is a year-long Halloween costume. Autumn turns into fall without verbal consequence. I become an Englishman in his element. The weather is home ground. Neighbours have a way of speaking instead of speaking. Double, double. Since 9/11, the word you are looking for is trouble. The visa that I had at the time wasn't a work visa, although some work was occasionally done, and sometimes in houses that had very dubious historical past. 5. Silver service, cash in hand. The car deposits us into neat, expensive gravel. At the kitchen door, the owner offers a hand for a handshake. His family owned what people did then. Now they have to buy in their southern hospitality. An awkward joke follows my attempt to mix bourbon and coke to the local taste. Some things are best kept separate. The class of '64 explain what's wrong with my country. It amounts to a tip about free market economies. Accept, and you shall receive. Loading the trunk, I count each glass back into its sleeve. And last from this sequence, number 7. The dollar bill is inspired. Practically coinless, we eat out 4 days a week. We has become your mom and me, complementary anachronisms. She, hippie-ish, optimistic, divorced, and me, a skinny Buddha of acquiescence. The dashboard of her white convertible Toyota is part obscured by incense and the postcard visage of Gurumai, her Siddhi Yoga, her Siddhi Guru. Namaste. Every journey is blessed. From Costco to Walgreens, we stock up on essentials, a half-gallon jug of Jim Beam and a pint of Advil. Between times, on a diet of drive-through beef, a Jewish mother fattens up her Hindu calf. And I'll end with this poem, which is a ghazal, or more rightly a half ghazal, that's written for my wife. And it basically describes the process of my wife having taken my name, which is something I didn't give much consequence to when we were getting married. So in some ways it's a poem of apology for realizing what that really was. It starts with a little epigraph from Mimi Calvati in her notes to the meanest flower. The word ghazal is of Arabic origin and means talking to women, women in Purdah, with all that that implies. Mimi Calvati in her notes to the meanest flower. Half ghazal. I flinch inside as you corroborate my name, which is your name now. You spell it out over the phone to a call centre in India. Your new surname, as foreign to you as the phone walla at the other end. Though the name itself was born and bred in the Himalayas in Hindi, it's long been reformed into English, into the name you now pronounce in your own non-native North American. It's a name you'll freely admit you'd rather not have taken, but have taken all the same, exchanging one unchosen name for another, uncasting yourself as Kohanim. And yes, I was proud you agreed to bear my name, to belong to my skin, to share the cloth of my sister's maiden name. But now, as you get used to an alias, I recall my mother who wouldn't disown her married name, but lived with it, assimilated, as my father's ex-wife, determined to keep the same last name as me. You begin again, Doegar, and I blush at the burden of our name. Thank you very much, and good luck to the others.
Thank you, Edward. That was wonderful. So I'm a firm believer you can never have too many Roberts in poetry. So delighted next to introduce my doppelganger. Robert Harper is an actor and a writer. He's currently completing his Master's in Creative Writing at Manchester Metropolitan University. He's the founding editor of Bear Fiction magazine and the artistic director of the Bear Fiction Theatre Company. He's a Shropshire lad, but he joins us today from Cardiff in Wales in the UK. Robert.
Hello, hi. Gosh, thank you so much for asking me to take part in this event. It's wonderful. It's been great hearing Chris and Edward. I'm looking forward to Rachel, Ron and Jennifer after me. Thank you very, very much. I'm going to read a few poems, as is the whole point of this evening. The first one is a poem called Beauty and the Beast. I thought in the spirit of the whole sharing, I thought I'd mention the journal that you should go and search out. It's The Lonely Crowd. It's a great journal. It's got online as well as a printed presence, and this was in this earlier in 2015. It's called Beauty and the Beast. Snow hangs, strung above their heads as the tune skips and swings, beat by beat. Fingers dancing in shadows, each table lit with the precision of a tin can. Host to 4 or more, a cluster of caffeinated addicts, adrenaline pumping faster than the gypsy jazz bass lines. He talks. We listen. Or should I say, we listen, but he does not care to even try. He works his words, watches eyes, defiles bar after bar to find his way beyond our fret. And then applause. Hands shake before the long walk home, a night 5 below our last trip into town. And yet his coda lies before him, an untouched strip of frost on which he treads. It seems strange having a computer here, but I'm using paper. But these next two are very, very short. It's a lovely chap called Kevin Reed who set up a thing called Nutshells and Nuggets. It's just for poems of no more than 9 lines, and so these two happily went up with him recently. The first one's called Inefficient View of a Happy Man. I only saw him briefly, as the train sliced off a second of his life to put beneath a pane of glass. He carried branches in his arms. On his face, a look beyond contentment kept him from sinking in the grass. I don't think this one needs any introduction. I hope it doesn't need any introduction. It's a bit of a comment on something that I find not very nice. Picked like a lime. Envious of a lemon's blush, she falters, unknowing everything told to her by the wisest ones who exult at the choice made on her behalf. The altar, more a sacrifice than a blessing, to be joined in holy matrimony, soured by the peeling back of layers lost of flesh too young to know what to do with all those pips. This one is a slightly strange one, really. I did a workshop with Harry Giles online with the poetry school in created and constructed language, and I ended up, after following very many different paths, coming to this idea of compound words and seeing if I could create some sort of idea of a language that was older than from centuries before perhaps, but would have some resonance. It's called Witch Bundle. I have no what jitterbug bang, honest, tell I, it's a coat sniffer, a real blade sharpener of the once decreed. If I was to splurge my verbals on the dine service during poll-tight consternation, I'd be brought before the magistry, hung by my head holder till the path dodgers wriggled themselves unfree. Really, it's all about the Barnet way. Before the New Street gets rallied home, porter rule out my teeth basket comes, and followed swiftly by a celebration of seized volumes. What brings the urban forespeak to the power of centuries? I understand your daddy home questions, your pearly yawn, your bad tattoo bliss. It'll be a short baby flop, just one. Then you'll witch bundle no more. I can box hat. So slightly peculiar. This last poem, I'll just do this last one now. This one is really about those moments where you're in a relationship and you're having trouble communicating, and you're realizing you're having trouble communicating, and we seem to inherently do this. We will take on a persona that we think might get the message across better. Invariably, it doesn't work, and we just have to realize to try and be ourselves and work out a different way of communicating. But this is what this one's about. It's called "It Doesn't Matter If I'm a Clown." If you need me to explain, then let me tell you simply that my brain doesn't work in the way you think it should. It has a hinge, not unlike a piano lid. My teeth, the keys that play Beethoven across a tongue speaking Chopin as a prelude to goodbye. I can dress up sentences with taffeta, twinkling lights to shine some sense of what was that to our discussion today. I can fill your ears with consonants that pop your synapses and play tricks on temples that pray for regularities and 75 beats or less at resting. If you need me to explain, I know that I'm the one who sees the clown is happy when his mouth's the wrong way round a custard pie, upside down, bleeding diamonds into cheeks that rub frowns away beneath a big top, hopping on one leg. I can tell you once again, but this time boxes and not parcels. This week isn't next. I told you yesterday at dinner you were listening to, what was that? Something else. And then we talked with eyes instead of words, both understood. Our daughter knows. I'm sure she's heard it all before in the way you think. I tell you simply that my brain doesn't work. If you need me to explain, and then let me. Thanks very, very much indeed for listening. I'm looking forward to for the rest of the show. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Robert. Indeed. Next up, Rachel Heimowitz. Her chapbook "What the Light Reveals" was recently released by that Welsh-named, California-based wonderful press Tebot Bach, and it's been gathering critical acclaim ever since. She holds an MFA from Pacific University in Oregon, a program dear to my heart. And she joins us now from Jerusalem in Israel. Rachel?
Not quite Jerusalem. A little bit outside.
A little bit outside.
Just above the Dead Sea in the desert outside Jerusalem in a little town called Golon. And thank you very much, Robert, and thank you to all my fellow readers. There's just a smile on my face. I feel imbued with poetry. So I'm going to jump right in. This is a psalm, The Melting Couch. I splash water 2 times on my right hand, 2 on the left. Blessed are you, blessed, grateful, for the steam, a sensuous dancer that rises with a cry from the kettle, for the wood stove and the fire that licks inside it, long flames flickering under bark, eating the secret tree meat beneath. Grateful for the molder of coals as they pass their red electric heat one to the other. Grateful for the rain and its season, the hiss, suck, and pucker of tires on the wet pavement. Outside, grateful for the darkening rocks under my fingers. Let me bless these drops that soothe my own blown soul. Dunk my head straight into the strength of a new pool. Let the water sculpt my words. Let the rain melt the mask of my wasteland, uncover the soft green underneath. Let me lie on my melted couch, walk these hills for 20 years of yearning. Let me cry a cupful every night and drink my tears in the morning. The next poem is an ekphrastic poem after a painting by Edward Dice from the 19th century. And it's about the meeting of Jacob and Rachel. One of the things from the Bible, one of the things I love about writing poetry in Israel is the tremendous history and how it relates, how we can look at it in modern time. Dice painted Jacob, the moment that Jacob and Rachel met in the story in the Bible. Jacob comes up to a well. There's a girl standing there. He grabs her, he kisses her, and he throws his head back and he cries. And the biblical commentators have asked again and again, why does he cry? I mean, there's the love of his life. He gives her a kiss. What's to cry about? And no one's come up with a really good answer, but this poem attempts to answer that question. I'm going to help you guys with some words in my poems because sometimes I throw in a little Hebrew. A parochet is the curtain in a synagogue that hangs in front of the Torah scrolls. After Dice's Jacob and Rachel, running from Esav, from Eliphaz, from a blind father, from a stolen blessing, running in salt and sweat and dust, still wearing his deceptive costume, eyes rimmed from rocky nights, taking on a millennium's worth of promises. I will return you to this soil. I will not forsake you. Running into the sunrise's certain future, a covered well, a flock of sheep, a girl who glints off the desert's hot sand in cerulean and cinnabar, a girl more fragrant than the night, a girl so real, so touchable, that she is touched, really touched. Her amenable hand held to his heart, his other hand wrapped around her neck, touching skin luminous as morning milk, chin cast down, amative, waiting, the susurrant silence, the rasp of sheep, and a kiss. And deep in Rachel's eye, Jacob sees their future spread out like a desert. He sees a woman named Nava in 2003, the entrance of the cafe, music of cup and saucer, a quiet night together the night before a wedding. A boy oiled into a heavy suicide vest, the throb of his heart exposed in the black bomb under his coat. Fast he hits the button, and then nothing. Nothing left of Nava, nothing of her father, nothing but her wedding dress, which hangs white and empty, a parochet in the tomb where Rachel is condemned, buried away from Jacob, alone, on the road that stretches from Jerusalem to Hebron. And that poem is in memory of Nava Applebaum, who died the night before her wedding. She was 20 years old, killed by a suicide bomber. Now something a little bit newer, actually brand new poem. A few words. Chamsin is a heat wave. Shabaknik, the Shabak is the Israel Secret Service. When you put the The add-on "nik" to any word in Israel, it means somebody who's like imbued with the culture and the lifestyle. And the last one, Sephardi, like Ashkenazi Jews, Sephardi Jews are the Jews that come from the Arab nations, and they everything pretty much is the same. They just have some different customs. Across the water, his eyes lashed in coal. Mornings alone, he sheaths his arm in prayer, sets another between his eyes, kisses the thick skin, the cured smell, the animal warmth beneath. These are the salted days of August, days of Chamsin, when even evening breathes hot on his neck, each moment an empty pocket, each seam tarred, sulphurous, and sour. On the bus, the old Sephardi men tell him, "Wet your lips. Go ahead and wet your lips on sweetness. Don't think about the ecru of your skin or the way it clings to the bone. You too will wake to a man's full weight in the hand nailing your head to the bed, will burn and crease into morning sheets well worn, and death, that savage savior, will walk across your water, enter your house, a shabachnik in a flannel shirt, each shoulder stiff with power, each shawled in prayer." Ode to a Young Girl Sold. Little light rises morning within morning, hands chafed clean from defile, knuckle after knuckle pearled, bread and boiled water, alive and silent as wind, as snow, muted to two dark braids. Yet the innocence of thin limbs winced in the bathroom, rashed red across her lovely back, penicillin inside the animal she carries pierced to her skeleton. Night within night, anointed in hard breath and the oiled smell of Vaseline. Little light, eyes bleached in the ice of his smile. No hand, no belt, just frozen sweat and the sound of a doll drowning in snow. And my last poem, a desert poem from the desert. Camel Dreams. Outside a cottage at the edge of a silver desert, a camel dreams to breathe the salt, the sea. He twists his head around to view the woman he carries with him and where he comes from, over the hot and pitted hills and the many varieties of salt. The ones that stink of sulfur, their crystal layers mixed with silt. The ones that soothe his burning feet in talc. The ones that sit like ice floes on briny water. The variety that forms a woman, arms outstretched, waiting for her stolen sons, those who melted in the land of Og, burned and buried in a shallow grave. In her dreams she rides the camel. When he walks, she knows the stormy waves have overtaken her. When he runs, she whispers the 70 secret names of God from her peeling lips and walks on water to where her sons play in the desert salt. Their feet are oars. Their hands braid the camel's hair to baskets painted gold. She crouches there in the blistered sand, spitting the husks of sunflower seeds over the fences many wrecked out of fear. Salt coats their tongues. The camel opens his dry mouth. Like a woman lost, his cry stretches out over the desert. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for including me, Robert. All the best.
Wonderful. Thank you, Rachel. So up next, R.A. Villanueva. His debut collection, Reliquaria, won the Prairie Schooner Book Prize in the United States, judged by Kwame Dawes. He's a Kundiman Fellow, and he's a visiting lecturer at the University of Westminster, and he joins us now from London. Ron?
Hey, everybody. Thank you for having me, Robert. Thank you, everyone else, for reading. Last week, there was a huge snowstorm, a blizzard back in New York, back in Brooklyn. And so all these photos started coming in, and I've been weirdly following the snow back and forth. So we're going to go from the desert to a snowstorm now. This is a poem that I wrote when I first moved to New York City. In the dead of winter In the dead of winter we slid forward toward a corner bus stop, shifting our weight with the flapping of mittens. Like as how water is, water first, then snow, and then ice. Our fingers too shifted states, going from rabbit ears to peace signs back behind each other's bonnets to too wide rests for invisible cigarettes. How we would pucker and grip and then hoot into the pink of each other's cheeks. Remember, and weren't we always so surprised by the crispness of our bangs frozen solid, frozen black into points? Here tonight, the breeze off the Hudson tastes like fireplaces, and my face is tight with the surprise that air in its invisibilities can still pinch and slash like that, like this, taking everything I can muster, walking face first into the avenues toward home, and the hiss of our radiator, which has soldered itself to the highest heats. I'll read another about New York, about the Hudson this time. It's called Ballast. Ballast. The winds and all the many millions of days have thrust themselves against us. See how heavy our breastbones weigh against the air, how our marrow lacks the pores that might allow us even a single buoyant bound into the sky. We have arms where wings should reside, blood thickened with brine and iron. We are the lump sum of the ground who holds us dear. And yet, there are equatorial calms begging to be breached. And there is the cusp of a canyon dressed in a coronal of marigolds visible only from above. So save your blessed fires, your blessed salts, nectarine devotional spiced for starboard altars. The tenders and trawlers mothballed and dry docked want more of us than prayer beads and weeping, snake wine and raveling nets. But what can we offer save for harvests of rust, black kites, signs of the cross? Each morning, the gulf between promise and wound flares like a ghost limb, a tunnel filling slowly with salt water and krill. We are a hive of nerves, yes, a flotilla raided by the dark. Cormorants strut the pier lengths without notice of dive teams and boatmen. Winches heavy with what's left of their rear rotors, seam welds, the guidance surfaces frayed and buckled. Not the dark of water, but its force upon us. A spokesman will mouth into boom mics, naming the enemy and its hold upon tenders marshaled to the wrecks. Call it recovery when the river surrenders all that remains from its silt, when a plane is found whole with the exception of wings. So my son was born in December, and I've been reading him poems at night. It doesn't put him to sleep, but it helps. And I've been reading him Galway Canal poems. There's this book called The Book of Nightmares, which is an unbelievable collection of sequences of poems. So I'm going to read you two sections from two different parts of Galway's book. 3. A round-cheeked girl child comes awake in her crib. The green swaddlings tear open. A filament or vestment tears. The blue flower opens. And she who is born, she who sings and cries, she who begins the passage, her hair sprouting out, her gums budding for her first spring on earth, the mist still clinging about her face, puts her hand into her father's mouth to take hold of his song. 7. Back you go into your crib. The last blackbird lights up his gold wings. Farewell. And your eyes close inside your head in sleep. Already in your dreams the hours begin to sing. Little sleepheads sprouting hair in the moonlight. When I go back, we will go out together. We will walk out together among the 10,000 things, each scratched too late with such knowledge. The wages of dying is love. And I will end with this poem. It's a sonnet. I've been writing lots of sonnets in the past year and a half, 2 years. The title of this poem is a Tagalog word. The title is Balikbayan. In Tagalog, Balikbayan is a compound word, and it refers to anyone who returns back home to the Philippines. Balik means to return or to go back, and bayan means homeland or nation or country. And so this is a poem that tries to braid together generations. My grandfather, my father, my brother, me, and my brother's son, my nephew, whose name is Pterodactyl. Well, his name is Ryan, but I call him Pterodactyl. And thank you, everyone, for listening, and thank you to all the other readers. Balikbayan. Name a brother's son Pterodactyl. Hold him to the sky, and watch that boy compare your face to his father's. Shape of the eyes, folds of the mouth. When he brings his forehead to meet yours, see the mark, there, a soft red the same as the bruise between your brother's eyes, gone now, left by your fastball to his face that summer on the front lawn. You told Dad it was nothing, and hoped he'd miss the seams and the blood just below the skin. Years ago, in Batangas, Grandpa wanted to see the ocean, so you cut his hair, took him to the coast, and sat him on the sand. You spoke of salt and home, and he practiced your names. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much indeed. So, our final reader, last but certainly not least, there's not a least among this strong group. J.L. Williams' second collection, Locust and Marlin, was published in 2014 by Shearsman to critical acclaim. She holds an MLit in creative writing from the University of Glasgow, and she's the program manager at the wonderful Scottish Poetry Library. It's a pleasure to have her joining us, rounding out the set from Edinburgh. Jen?
Thank you so much, Robert. To echo some of the previous readers, it's been such an honor to be part of this extraordinary project. And Robert, it's been always such a pleasure to work with you, and your incredible calm has come in handy so many times. So really, thank you so much. And also thank you to all those other readers for those amazing poems. It's just beautiful. I have got 3 for you. This one is called Basin, and it's a relatively new poem and hopefully part of what will become a new collection at some point. All poems about light in various ways. Basin. Mother in the clematis gathering white washing. Gold horse throws its mane. Gold hairs on her legs rise. Eyes trace the horizons. Emptiness filled with sweet eggs whipped to meringue. Almonds, polish of beeswax in leather. Cotton dripping in white sun. Glassy suds, mouth bubbles. Your hand brings the wax flower in the bell. The bee calls your name. You open your mouth, surprised. Bee enters your throat, comes alive. Gold tongue, gleaming honey. Deep in your center, a wax ball melts, all silenced by honey. Bee makes of you a white flower. Mother calls from the horse's back. You are ringing, ringing, ringing. Bright as a bronze bell. Peals. You sing. Life is the opening through which we taste. We have a new kitten who's running around everywhere, so if you hear kitten noises, it's Lois. This second poem is from the book that Robert mentioned, Locust and Marlin. I like to show the cover because my friend Anupa Gardner made it especially for the book, and it's so beautiful. So thank you, Anu, for that. This is a poem called All Water. Then, thinking a lot about gills, how this flesh fringe can take in water and air, how you can catch a fish by tickling it under its belly, wearing silk stockings on your hands, how you can hold a fish gently in the current stream, revive it as if it were a lover needing stroking, needing the brush of lips over glazed skin. What is it we do when we take a fish or sip, pluck an apple, kill a man or beast? Are we stopping or continuing an endless flow whose movement is toward home or origin, whatever that may be? Whatever that may be, home, beginning. But what or where is this? Was it a cloud that formed, let the first pure diamond drop from its wet womb? Was it first the puddle evaporating in billion years, young sun? Is this why everything keeps moving? Why the circle within the circle within the circle turns? Because there is no soil worth dying for. It'll have us soon enough. We are mostly water, and all water is a thing that seeks a home but has no home except that carved in earth by seeking. And this last poem is a really new one. It comes partly because I heard a line read by the wonderful poet Jane McKee, who teaches at Edinburgh University, from her most recent book. And this is from a poem called Archipelago, and the line is, "My husband levitates at night," which I thought was fabulous. And also because the poet and editor Jerry Cambridge had told me about something called a rainbow machine, which I'd never heard of before, and I thought it was such an exciting idea, so I wanted to write a poem about it. So this is called I Love You and Your Rainbow Machine. When I pull my pants down and see the blood, I know it is your white head beating the drum. all the staff at Herod's marching, pens in your pocket, 1,000 windows glancing at once as I kneel on the grand dais, knife in hand, aching for quiet, your rainbow machine on my tongue. All I need is to open my mouth and rise. It isn't what birds do. When it first happened, the priest was saying, all his holes. The light through the glass was rainbow, all was rainbow. I was light, and floating over the altar, the congregation gasped as the priest sang, Holy, holy, holy Mary, Mother of God. You take me to the attic to show me your rainbow machine. You pull the string and the hatch opens. The ladder folds down. Creaking, each wooden step takes the weight of each foot. Your feet in your socks. We have to bend. The ceiling is low and insulated. Boxes of old ornaments glint in the light of the torch. I think you might kiss me, but instead you open a silver box. Light in a silver box. All then is color, someone shouting from far below, Holy, holy, holy Mary, Mother of God. Oh, Savannah, oh, helium, oh, wretched epiphany. By the time I lay the knife down, every person in the room remembers the brilliance of the womb. What I wanted to say was that when I woke up, I turned over and your side of the bed was cold. Blood was spilling down my leg. The attic hatch was closed. Outside, the dawn pressed her face against the window, and I swear, Holy, holy, holy Mary, Mother of God. A rainbow lifted me up. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. So thank you to all 6 of our readers. What a rich and remarkable variety, from Christopher Crawford in the Czech Republic, Edward Doegar in London, Robert Harper in Cardiff, Rachel Heimowitz in Israel, R.A. Villanueva in London, and J.O. Williams in Edinburgh. I just want to remind you that if you liked anything that you heard tonight, seek out their work online, in person, in live readings, and of course seek out their books and buy them and enjoy them. You can take some of this wonderfulness home with you in that way. And a real testament, I think, too, to their professionalism. They all stuck just perfectly to time. So we are going to end this broadcast bang on time. Just again, one small but telling detail about their commitment to making these broadcasts work. Speaking of which, our next live broadcast on Sunday, the 28th, 2016, we're 2016. That will be Kathy Linche and Sandeep Parmar. It is hosted by R.A. Villanueva on behalf of Kundiman. It should be a wonderful reading, and we're returning to our normal timing of 8 p.m. in the UK, 3 p.m. on the East Coast, noon West Coast time. And so again, do join us. Join us then. Tune back into this and the many archives. Seek out the poets and their wonderful work. It just again remains for me to thank all of them for this truly rich and fulfilling evening. I know now why I've been looking forward to it for so long. Thank you all for being here, and we'll see you back here at the end of February. Good night.